I started dating my girlfriend at the end of my senior year, and before we started dating, I used multiple dating apps. In many of my dating app profiles, I had my Snapchat listed so that people could add me. Nothing led to anything with the dating apps. I talked to people for a bit, and eventually the conversation would die out. When I began dating my girlfriend, I had deleted the apps, but never deleted my account, meaning people could still see my profile and my Snapchat in it. I realized this after a few people would add me, but it didn't go anywhere because I'd tell them I had a girlfriend. As you would imagine, the conversation would end there. But there was this one guy that added me, let's call him Adam, and he asked if I was available. Being straight, I was used to guys adding me, so I gave him the usual response, sorry, I'm straight and I have a girlfriend. I expected him to leave me alone, but he didn't. At first, the messages were normal things like, how was your day and what did you do today? Being the nice guy I am, I responded because I thought this guy just wanted to be friends. Then the messages progressively got creepier. He started asking questions about my girlfriend, and not the basic questions. Questions like if my girlfriend is good in bed. I simply responded saying those were personal questions and I didn't feel like it was right for me to share my dating business. Adam would always apologize and not talk to me for a few days. Then he would talk to me again and ask creepy questions again. I eventually told my girlfriend about the situation. She is sweet but also very aggressively protective over me. So she added this guy and basically told him that he needed to leave me alone. Unfortunately, this enraged Adam, who responded saying that I needed to dump my girlfriend. Naturally, I defended my girlfriend and blocked Adam. Everything was cool for a week, until another account added me. This guy's name was Tyler, and he was super chill. He was super nice to me and respected my relationship with my girlfriend. As the days went by, I started to notice that Tyler's vocabulary was very similar to Adam's. I wasn't sure about it, so I didn't make any assumptions that it was him. I gave Tyler's Snapchat to my girlfriend, who added him to investigate. As soon as she added him, Tyler flipped out on her, which confirmed that it was Adam. As soon as this realization was made, I blocked him again. From there, everything went quiet from Adam for about a month. My girlfriend and I live down the street from each other, so naturally we do see each other a lot, and both our families are good friends. On top of that, our families would also house sit or pet sit for each other. Anyway, a month went by until I got a letter with no address or name on it, just my name on the front. I opened it, and to my shock and horror, it was basically a love letter from Adam. The premise of the letter was basically him saying that he loves me and he wanted me to run off with him. At that moment, two horrifying realizations hit me. One is that he knew my address, and two, he dropped the letter off himself, meaning that he was in my town. I immediately called my girlfriend, who was equally as shocked as I was, and after consulting with my parents, we called the cops. Unfortunately, since I had blocked as well as removed Adam's social media information, and that the letter had no return address, there was nothing we could do about it. Day after day, letters would keep appearing in my mailbox until they started appearing in my girlfriend's mailbox as well. Her letters were far worse than mine. Adam wrote of how much he hated her and how much he wanted to hurt her. He also stated many times of the ways he would inflict pain on her until she broke up with me. Like me, she took this to the cops, and again, they couldn't do anything about it. My girlfriend's family had plans to go to Hawaii for vacation, and I was to house sit for them. The first couple of days went fine, until one of the last nights of the week. As per usual, I was over at their house, watching TV on the couch, when the power went out. It was around 1 a.m. and pitch black when those lights went out. The next few seconds were silent, and then I heard a window smash from the office on the first floor. Immediately, I shot up and grabbed a kitchen knife and ran upstairs to hide while I called the cops. I quickly got into my girlfriend's room and slipped into the closet. As soon as I was able to contact the operator, I heard the pounding of the intruder running up the steps. Thankfully, I had relayed all the information to the operator in time, who then stayed on the phone as we both remained quiet. The intruder checked other rooms first when he reached the top of the stairs, which gave more time for the cops to arrive and for me to get ready just in case I needed to defend myself. A few minutes went by until I heard the intruder start walking towards my girlfriend's room. In the few precious seconds I had, I slipped out of the closet and positioned myself next to the door. As soon as he opened the door and started to enter the room, I took the kitchen knife and drove it into his shoulder. A young man screamed in pain as I heard a heavy metallic object make a large thud as it hit the ground. From there, I bolted out of the house where I was met by 4 squad cars and cops with their guns raised. I put my hands up shouting that he was upstairs. A few minutes went by and the intruder was dragged out, still screaming in pain. With the siren lights flooding the street, I got a glimpse of his face. It was Adam. I was informed later by an officer that metallic thud was made by him dropping his handgun when I surprised him. Adam had traveled to my state to be with me. He had rented a room at a local motel and would put letters in both my girlfriend's and my mailbox daily. He would do this in the early hours of the morning. This was confirmed by security footage of the motel he was staying at. That night, Adam had plans to kill my girlfriend and her family so I would choose to be with him. He managed to pry open the power box and switch off the power to her house along with the neighboring houses. He broke in with the intent of her being there. To be honest, I have no idea how this outcome would be different if they did not go on vacation, and I'm glad he's in jail now. This started about 2 or 3 months ago. I work in an art store and I do a little of everything, helping customers, cleaning, and stocking shelves. One day this guy came in asking for some help, as he never really took up art before. Lucky me, I was chosen to help the guy. We talked for a bit, and I asked what he wanted to learn and what medium he wanted to use, stuff like that. He said he was into sketching and wanted to expand his horizon. Somehow it came up that I'm also an artist, and he got really interested. He asked me if I can help him with his art, which caught me off guard. I said that I'm not a professional and I'm not interested in teaching anyone, and he took it well and off he went. Next week he returned and specifically asked for me and said that he bought his sketchbook this time. This wasn't the biggest deal. Maybe he was proud and just wanted to show the person at the store who helped him previously how he was doing. Whatever. Apparently, I hit a sweet spot for him though, because he started coming in now every few days and became more disturbing. I also found out he learned when my work schedules are, when my birthday is, my name, and how old I am. I only found this out because of a few encounters with said customer where he would come up and talk to me. One day, I clocked into work and saw him waiting in the stairs for me, and he acted all surprised like we just happened to arrive at the store at the same time. One day before my birthday, he came up to me at the exact time I was supposed to start my shift and gave me a gift and a note. He drew me a member of a band I like and gave me a birthday card. He told me he wanted to bring me something a day before my birthday because he knew I wouldn't come in the day of. He must have overheard me talking to coworkers because I never told him when my birthday was and that I would be missing work that day. After he walked away, I looked at the note he wrote me which said, "Happy 20th birthday. Keep making people happy and being so kind." On the note he also wrote, "P.S. I'm not a paper thief, so you can have this back." I realized the paper the note was written on was a piece of garbage I threw away months ago. He picked it up from the trash to return to me, and that made my blood run cold. One day he came in and asked for help like usual when he brought up buying something for kids. I wanted to know if maybe there was a wife or something involved in his life to see if I was maybe misinterpreting some things. I asked, "Oh, how old are your kids?" Also, I needed to know to give him age-appropriate supplies. He started freaking out, saying they aren't for his kids, and he didn't have kids, and emphasized that he was not married. Then he began asking me if I was married. I said I'm not married, but I'm in a committed relationship and have been for 5 years, which was a lie, and he got very disappointed and walked off. I thought that maybe that was it and he wouldn't stalk me anymore in weird attempts to pursue me romantically. He didn't come in for 2 weeks, and I was overjoyed for a while. After those 2 weeks though, he came into my work again a few times when I was busy and back. Apparently he asked my coworkers where I was for 2 weeks, which really confused me because I had been working at the store like normal. I tried my best to not interact with him, and if I did end up interacting with him, to always keep it strict and let him know that I wasn't interested in him whatsoever. I'm riddled with anxiety, and it's making me anxious at work because I'm afraid to see him. Thankfully, he hasn't done anything physical to me, but is putting a lot of mental strain on me, and I don't want to quit because I love my job and coworkers. After the birthday incident, the moment he left, I went up to management and told them everything about him, and that it creeps me out and I feel unsafe. My manager said there's nothing they can do, and they can't ban him from the store because he hasn't done anything wrong. I've gone to management multiple times, and they've been unhelpful. I'm hoping my stalker eventually just takes a hint and leaves me alone at work. This happened to me about 4 years ago during a tattoo convention in Toronto. I was still an apprentice tattoo artist, and this was my first time working at a convention, so I was super excited but also a bit underprepared. There were 6 of us going from the studio I worked in, 3 guys and us 3 girls. We booked separate hotel rooms, and the guys booked theirs early. But I booked the room for the girls last minute because I didn't realize that the rooms would all be booked up near the convention center. There were almost no affordable rooms left, and I had a mini panic attack before I found a Super 8 with a room left. I asked if any of the other girls minded, and they were totally fine with it, as we wouldn't be hanging out in the hotel much anyways. Fast forward to us arriving at the hotel. It was literally inside an Asian strip mall that was kind of sketchy, but hey, we rolled with it. We checked in, unpacked, and headed down to the convention center to set up our supplies. Afterwards, a bunch of other tattooers asked us all out for drinks, so all 6 of us said sure and met up at a bar. We had a great night, and everyone was having a blast. I really was not used to drinking at all, and it was getting later. Being my first convention, I didn't want to be tired the next day, so I asked if anybody else wanted to leave. They were all still partying and didn't want to go, but I didn't want to ruin their time, so I let them know that I was heading back to the hotel by myself, and I called an Uber. When I got there, it was completely empty. I walked through the mall, and it was silent and dark. I made it to the hotel entrance and walked past the check-in desk. Dark, and nobody was there. I was a bit creeped out, but also kind of looking around. I took the elevator to my floor and walked past the communal breakfast area. The breakfast room was dark, but I could see a silhouette of a man sitting in there alone. When he saw me, he stood up, and I could hear his footsteps walking behind me. I tried to stay calm and said to myself, he's probably just heading to his own room. I thought I was freaking out for no reason just because it was late at night. But as I continued down the halls trying to find my room, I decided for whatever reason to turn around, which led to the most disgusting sight I've ever seen. The doors for each room dipped into the wall slightly, and as I turned around, the man behind me quickly dipped into one of the doorways, then peered at me from behind the wall. We made direct eye contact, and my heart sank. I turned back around and sped up, just wanting to get back to my room and lock the door. I was almost there. I was at a T-intersection of a hallway, and there was a fire extinguisher behind glass in front of me, and I could see him behind me again in the reflection. I turned around and saw him dip into somebody else's doorway and peek at me. At that point, I absolutely lost it. I started running and booked it past the last few doors to my room around the corner. I swiped my keycard fast, and I'm surprised I didn't fumble and drop it. Then I slammed the door shut and locked it. Thankfully, because I was right around a corner, he didn't see which room was mine. I looked through the peephole in the door and watched him pace the hallway for a few minutes before walking away. I immediately went to the hotel room phone to try to call security, but nobody was answering. So then I called my coworkers who were still at the bar and told them what happened. They came right away and helped me find an employee. I guess they have next to no staff overnight and no security at all. The employee we did find tried to look for the guy, but he was long gone. He told me that he would check the cameras, but I never heard if anything came from it. I don't know what would have happened if that guy caught me, but I'm glad I never found out. I have an unlikely stalker. I say unlikely because I'm a 6'7", 260-pound teenager, so frankly I don't consider myself a likely victim to a stranger, but I guess I was wrong. It started 3 years ago when I was walking home from my friend's house after a get-together. It was about 11 p.m. and not many people were out. I was walking about 35 feet behind someone, and I wasn't really paying attention to him. That is, until he quickly turned and took a couple of steps up my front stairs before he used his phone to take a photo for some reason, I assume on accident, with flash of my house. He turned enough that I could see the details of his face clearly. I hurried inside after he continued walking and counted the seconds until the sun came up. I had almost forgot about that weird occurrence when, a week later, I was just finishing up shoveling my bottom steps. I can't exactly recall what time it was, but it was dark and nobody was around. This man seemingly came out of nowhere and grabbed my shoulder rather assertively, kind of startling me, but I didn't really get frightened. I had that feeling where you recognize someone, but you can't place where their face is from. Anyway, he said in a very bouncy tone, "Hey, got a cigarette?" I said no, and he just walked off. The same man came up to me while I was shoveling again on a different night and asked me the same question in the exact same tone of voice. I had the same response, and he left. This time, however, I knew where I had seen him before, and it began to creep me out, but I still wasn't freaked out entirely. It happened again the next year, the next winter, and I hadn't seen this man the entire year between meetings. So I figured, based on the pattern, I would only see this man during the winter, and he really posed no threat. But this experience was the bit that really rocked me. I happened to have insomnia, and this happened while I was up at 3 a.m. walking around. I happened to glance out of my second-floor bedroom window, which faced the road. I did the classic cartoon double-take and had to walk back to the window to peer out. What I saw still sticks in my head every time I look out that window. The man was standing on the other side of the street directly across from my house. He was just staring at my house and pacing, almost like he was waiting for something to happen. After a few seconds of watching him do this, I turned the light on in my room. His head bolted up to look at me directly in the eye, and he quickly turned and walked down the road. That winter, shoveling had me extremely frightened. I never shoveled at night, and found myself literally jumping at slight noises behind me. At one point, I dropped my shovel multiple times shoveling my front walk simply from fearful turns over my shoulder. I'm sure this looked hilarious, honestly, but still from my point of view, the fear was real. That's when we get to a couple of weeks ago. Where I live, during the winter, the sun goes down around 5 p.m., and for some reason my mom was adamant that I have to shovel right when I get back from work at 6:30, even though it was dark out. I complied, but made sure not to listen to music and to be very vigilant. Multiple times I spun around to look at a few weirded out college students walking home from the school nearby, as I assumed they were him. I was just finishing up the stairs closest to my house as he clamped down on my shoulder. I whipped my head around to look at him in the eye, but strangely he wasn't startled and calmly said in his all-too-familiar phrase, "Hey, got a cigarette?" Once again I said no. I'm not sure why I couldn't bring myself to say something else. He walked down my steps and continued his way. My heart was racing as I rushed inside. I haven't seen him since this experience, and I figure I won't see him again unless I have another middle-of-the-night sighting as I'm leaving for college before next winter. Hopefully I've seen the last of him, but I can't shake the feeling that I haven't. I decided to drive to the largest forest in my country in hopes of getting back in touch with nature, needing to clear my head. I asked the local forestry office for the best place for a quick walk off the main trails, and was directed to this picturesque spot a little ways down the road. No reception, and with a nice blue sky, I was glad I made the spontaneous trip, and I walked farther down the path. I saw a clearing in the trees to my right. Since the plan was to get closer with nature, I ventured into the trees off the beaten path. It was great. I explored the area, listened to the birds as they swooped from branch to branch, and even got a good 5 minutes of meditation in before I heard what sounded like two animals fighting. I assumed they were just foxes and moved on. I unexpectedly reached this sand road as I emerged from the trees, but decided to walk along it for a moment as I scanned for an entry into the forest on the other side of the road. But as I looked around, I spotted a broad dangling from a bush near the road. Now, I'm aware people go to the forest for all sorts of reasons, but this did put me slightly on edge. As I turned around, I heard an electric car making its way up the road. By the time I heard it, it was less than 300 yards away. My instincts told me to hide or just avoid being seen, but there was no time, so I simply gave a polite nod as he passed and made my way in the opposite direction. He parked his car up behind me just out of view. I began to make my way off the road, intending to go explore further, but when I saw the car for a moment doing a 180 turn then parking again, something told me to turn around and go back the way I came. As I made my way back onto the road, I spotted this man in a white shirt behind the bush the bra was hanging from. He was going in the direction I had just changed course from. I crossed the road and made my way back into the forest I arrived on the sand road from. When I got slightly farther in, I turned around to check if the man continued in the opposite direction, but he didn't. Instead, I saw that he had also crossed the road and was making his way onto the part of the woods that I had entered. By this point, I knew I was being followed. There was no way he coincidentally went one way, then turned his head to this part of the forest that I entered, but I kept my pace brisk rather than running. As I traveled farther, he was always following. I was cursing my luck as I made my way to the end of that section of the forest, just before the path that was after a large patch of grass and shrubbery, but as I looked back, I couldn't see him. I stopped for longer than I should have, scanning the trees and listening intently, but I heard nothing and saw nothing. I made my way back onto the path with some relief, and turned one last time to check the tree line. When I saw he wasn't there, I began considering if I was overthinking the whole situation. But just as those thoughts crossed my mind, I saw the man emerge from the opposite side from where he was previously, once again switching sides of the road to follow me. He just stared at me, but I wasn't going to take any more chances, so I made my way down the path and back to my car, making sure to get out of there quickly, as I knew he would head down the same tight country road. I reported the man to the forestry office, but there wasn't much they could do, so that was it. When I paused at the tree line when I couldn't see him, for him to have emerged from where he did when I had made it back to the path, he had to have approached it from another angle, an angle that I admittedly wasn't checking. But I'm glad I never went further into the forest. I'm glad I followed my instincts. Otherwise, the only way back would have been through him.